Okay, folks, today's video is about organizing yourself in Reason, because there comes a time when you need to hand a session file to another person and you want this person to easily find everything he needs to know. A good song starting session for this will be empty plus fx. That's the one I'm currently using, so you get 4 insert effects here, 4 send effects here. But that's not the topic I want to talk about today. That's for another video. By the way, if you like these videos, please make sure to leave a like under the video and hit subscribe. It helps a lot to maybe one day do this without having a full-time job on the side. Okay. So send effects and other useful stuff I showed in the last videos are will be for another video. Today we're gonna focus on organization in the rack and sequencer and the mixer. So let's just make some placeholder mixing channels so we get something to work with. So the rack is as long as you want, or as long as you need it to. So if we just hit duplicate, you see on the right side here it's just getting longer and longer and longer. But that's not what we want. In this case, we just need a few channels. So you don't need to fiddle around in the rack if you don't want to, but I would consider splitting it up into 3 sections. So you got your first rack, which is typically for your send effects, for your master section. Following this, the next thing will be my vocals. So if I got a vocal, I will put them in the first rack, so I easily find them where they are. In the second rack, I will put my drums and my bass, maybe sound effects, depending on how long it is. How long the rack is in comparison to the other two. And the third rack would be my other instruments, so guitars, piano, everything you can think of, so that we easily have an overview over everything. If I got multiple channels for drums example, I would name them in a clear way so everyone that has some knowledge of music will recognize these as bass drum, snare and hi-hats and so on. If there's something we need to combine, so for instance this perk 1 and perk 2, you could always combine them using a new output bus or a new bus for this, and set your effects in here or at the mixing level. So instead of putting reverb on both, I just put reverb on the mix channel of it. This keeps the CPU load low, and we have a little more fun making music. But what we need to do in this situation, we select everything except these two because they are running into a bus, and we combine them as drums. So this is just an example, so you could hook buses into another bus and say, okay, everything that's green goes into drums and everything that's yellow goes into perks. Perks are green, so they go into the drum also. Yeah, so depending on the length of the rack, I will choose where to put the next section. If you need that, there are some cool little utility devices that are totally free from Jiggery Pokery. And these are little tables where you could just type in anything you want. So you could leave messages to the other producer that opens your file. Or you could leave instructions. So so these come in 3 different sizes, and we could choose a color for that, so we could match it to our drums color. And the 3 different sizes, so you really could put one of this into your session, maybe at the first rack, directly under the sound effects, and you get a very big place where you could leave text for other people, even on the backside. So these 3 are very cool little helpers to organize stuff. You could even try them as separators, so you could say, and so you take it just as a divider between the sections. That's also very cool. What else could we do? You could set up tags. For instance, I got a Forgotten Clank tag here. And if I click this tag, it's reduced to only the Forgotten Clank rack extensions. You could do this for your favorite EQs, favorite compressors, favorite vocal chain effects. So there's no limit to that. In the browser, you got the option to save shortcuts here. So you could say, hey, that's my refills folder, and everything in there is just refills you downloaded or bought. Or you could even go one step further and say, okay, this is a combinator patch. It's called Radiosprecher, which is basically a radio host, which I knew is the typical radio compression setup I use for my other tutorial videos. So I could easily drag this in if I need to and make working in that a little bit faster. So for example, you could make a combinator that's called vocal processing, put everything in there you need to process a vocal, and recall it every time you need it. Let's go to the sequencer. So since I only got mixed channels, there's no, because we don't have instruments, doesn't matter what we take for this, just copy a bunch over. In my opinion, it's best to start with the drums at the highest stage. Even they begin, even they don't even begin at the start of the song, but I think having the drums at your first few lanes is important. After the drums, I typically put the bass and color it in a shimmering color like red, so I easily could identify my bass every time I need it. You could pick whatever color you like. I like red for this. So if these are my drums and this is a separate channel for my perks, I just drew something in here. Then followed by my bass. Then all the other instruments. This is totally random, so you could choose to do that, or you could choose a different route, but I think that's the way to go. We color them too. For melodies, I typically use a green or multiple greens for that. And last but not least, I will have my SFX. So everything that's Foley sound, risers, stuff like that, we change the color to whatever we like. I will take this violet here and all the others too, because they are the same. You get the idea. You just try to group your stuff from up to down. It doesn't depend on which order you do that, but try to give it make it easily to overview all. What we also could do, we could go to options and down here below activate blocks. This gives us the opportunity to switch to block mode. We come there in a minute. And we got this cool little song lane here where we could choose to set up blocks. So basically blocks is like regions. So you could say this is, okay, we need to rename that, but we could go in here, say block 1 is my intro. We could say block 2 is our verse, and so on. We could easily get an overview where the different regions begin and start, which is handy. So blocks is a very useful tool for that, but you can find your way with, but you can find your own way with that. So this is just ideas. I typically spread ideas here. And the next thing is, what we're gonna do is after we renamed and recolored and reordered all of our audio tracks and instruments, take them all. So we mark them all with Control A. We go here and go to sort, and nothing happened. But what you see now, we got the exact order, the exact same order as in the sequencer. So even if you drag this up, for instance, and select all, right click and sort, you should see American Pop Piano, which should be our base, has moved on. So that's a very easy way to get a little more structure into your mix channels. Another cool trick when you set up buses. So we do this and combine it to an audio to a new mix bus and say this is drums. This time it's fat, it's all caps, so I could differentiate that. If we make another bus, make this green and name it instruments. So we could take these buses to the right side, and so now it doesn't matter in how many mix channels you have, even if you fill 3 or 4 screens with it, you could always put all your buses at the front position on the right side and have easy access to them at every time. So you could make little adjustments to loudness if you need to. There's also an easy way to copy over the channel's settings. So for instance, if you process the drum and want the same process on another drum, you could easily right click and go here to copy channel options, and we get dynamic filter EQ, insert effects, send effects, or all. So we could take what we need, could copy it and paste it in here like this. If you, for example, put some MIDI notes, it doesn't matter. If you put some MIDI notes here and bounce it into place, you get a new audio channel. And the original is muted, the original clip. I would typically say save everything you played. So if you don't need this channel, take it to the side outside of your locators so it doesn't get played at all, even if it's muted, and minimize this track. So it doesn't distract you, but it's there if you need it. We got one more thing to say about the rack. Some people like to minimize so they don't have the total height of the rack, but there is a better option. So if I got my Radical Piano here, and I could easily combine this into a combinator, but why stop there? We could always add effects to our chain and combine them afterwards. So instead of having the long signal chain going, we just can combine it into a shorter one. And we even could minimize everything that's unnecessary for us to see, leave open what we need, and leave devices open. So if you minimize this, you only have one height, or you have the smallest heights of this combinator, but if you expand it, you could see what you need, control what you need, and don't see what is there with only one click, instead of unclicking everything by hand. Yeah, the same goes for the mixed channels. I would always show insert effects and minimize here just with one click, because show insert effect is always shown here, so it instantly shows me everything. Okay guys, I hope this was somehow helpful. I don't know. I talked a very long time now. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and a comment, as I mentioned before. Consider subscribing to my channel. This really helps a lot. And have a nice time. Until next time. Ciao.